As we enter 2024, the global military landscape is becoming increasingly tense. The free world is undaunted by the escalating military conflicts. A significant geopolitical development is the joint airstrike by the US and UK against the Houthi forces. Additionally, the Crimean Bridge caught fire at the beginning of the year. This exposes the secretive alliance between Putin and Xi Jinping. On the last day of 2023, the US, the UK, and an unknown country from the European Union were planning an airstrike against Houthi forces, involving the release of hundreds of missiles in western Yemen and the Red Sea. Imagine the British Royal Air Force's Typhoon fighters and HMS Diamonds missiles soaring through the Yemeni skies, targeting coastal radar sites, weapon depots, and missile and drone launch bases. This operation is set to be the focus of the new year. Once the full-scale airstrikes begin, the world's attention will be focused here, shocking not only the international media, but also the powers behind the operations, China and Russia. The US's action is an escalation of challenges to these two countries. The involvement of the unknown European country is speculated to be economically linked to the Suez Canal. They are concerned about the Houthi forces supported by China and Russia, especially given their significant economic interests in China. On the morning of December 31st, off the southern coast of the Red Sea, 4 Houthi armed vessels opened fire on the container ship Maersk Hangzhou. The ship's security team retaliated, and in response, a U.S. Navy MH-60R helicopter sunk 3 Houthi armed vessels. This resulted in 10 casualties. There was not any harm to American personnel or equipment. In the preceding 10 days, 1,200 merchant ships passed through the Red Sea without a single attack by drones or missiles. But the several drone and missile attacks on U.S. warships were all intercepted by the U.S. military. Evidence was uncovered in Israel's latest raid against Hamas. A video showing Chinese-made machines were secretly digging underground tunnels. China, a country with a large population, vast territory, a strong economy, and market, is covertly supporting terrorist operations in the Middle East. This fact, long known to Israel, is now powerfully and convincingly evidenced by videos shot from Hamas themselves, revealing that their true support extends beyond Iran, with China playing an increasingly visible role. Another Hamas video even reveals that the annual funding from Iran is only a few $100 million, whereas substantial funding for them comes from the distant country, China. Meanwhile, U.S. oil production has surged to 13.2 million barrels per day, surpassing Saudi Arabia's 9 million tons. The falling oil prices are bad news for Russia, as it can directly impact its economic lifeline. But as experts say, this is just the beginning. The U.S. is preparing for many possible future conflicts, with plans to continue increasing oil production. Should the situation in the Middle East escalate, U.S. allies, including Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, the UK, and European countries, will rely on U.S. oil supplies. This is not only a preparation for war supplies, but also an economic strategic layout. China, despite having built substantial oil reserves, faces long-term supply challenges. Their reserves might prove insufficient against increased demand, and increasing oil production is not easy. It requires time, technology, and significant capital investment. To construct drilling platforms is not a simple task. The following is a summary of the international situation. In Ukraine, Russian military forces have suffered setbacks, and the Black Sea Fleet's strength has been weakened. Protests erupted in Belgrade, the capital of Serbia, demanding the government to resign. Moldova announced a referendum to join the EU, driven by Western powers. Venezuela, Hungary, and even Iran may face political upheavals. In the Middle East, the US is focusing on resolving the issue in Iran and may consider the Kurds as important allies, joining Israel in reshaping the Middle Eastern geopolitical landscape. In the Western Pacific, South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol's policy towards North Korea indicates that the United Nations Command and the U.S. military might be ready for military action. There are tensions within the Taiwan elections, with the U.S. emphasizing that it will not allow Taiwan to become another Hong Kong. The U.S.'s actions in the South China Sea demonstrate further military constraints on China, especially in the southern area of the First Island chain. With the Philippines poised to deploy F-16s, they can potentially shift the military dynamic in that region. High budgets in Japan and the U.S. for their defense systems reflect their military deployments and preparations in the Indo-Pacific region. In 2024, the U.S. and Japan are expected to make significant moves in the Western Pacific, exploiting a window of opportunity before China is fully prepared. China, currently lacking strength, does not yet dare to engage in war in the Korean Peninsula and the South China Sea, as surely stepping towards a definite failure is not a move to be taken lightly. Looking ahead, 2024 is poised to be a year of escalating military actions. The free world is taking proactive steps, readying itself for a reshaping of the global political landscape. The United States is set to decisively confront the Chinese military forces, indicating a complete disengagement from China. At the end of 2023, Ukraine experienced its largest missile attack in nearly 4 months, with Russia launching 122 missiles and 36 Iranian drones, one of which even entered Polish territory. Ukraine's counterattack was equally fierce, firing rockets toward the Russian border city of Belgorod, seemingly testing Russia's limits. But Russia's response was unexpectedly cautious, using only S-300 missiles to strike a 5-star hotel in Kharkiv. This restraint may stem from Russia's concern about its strategic bombers and bases becoming targets for Ukraine's F-16s. Indeed, following this large-scale bombing, Russia reportedly lost a Tu-22M3 strategic bomber, suspected to have been downed by an F-16 using an AIM-120 missile. Further losses could significantly weaken Russia's aerial nuclear delivery capabilities, putting it at a strategic disadvantage. On December 26th, Ukraine successfully sank Russia's 775 class large landing ship Novocherkassk using France's Scalp EG missile system, also known as Storm Shadow. Ukraine has destroyed about 20% of Russia's Black Sea fleet over the past few months. This attack could affect Russia's geopolitical influence in the Black Sea region. A complete loss of operational capability by the Black Sea Fleet could result in control of the entire Black Sea region falling into the hands of NATO member Turkey, a catastrophic outcome for Russia. Meanwhile, the international community is ramping up support for Ukraine. The White House has called on Congress to provide more aid. On December 27th, the European Union planned to bypass Hungarian Prime Minister Orbán, offering at least 20 billion euros in financial aid directly to Ukraine, with EU member states participating voluntarily without needing unanimous consent from all members. Furthermore, on December 28th, the Financial Times reported that G7 leaders plan to discuss a new legal theory at their meeting in February, which would allow Western countries to seize frozen Russian assets and transfer them to Ukraine to support its resistance against Russian military actions. According to news reports, the value of Russia's 122 missiles in this attack is estimated at $1.27 billion, most of which are made in China. This reflects a high-level political game between Putin and Xi Jinping, each with their agendas and mutual exploitation. A recent report by Nikkei Asia revealed the complexities of these behind-the-scenes dealings. In March 2023, Putin told Xi Jinping that Russia would fight in Ukraine for at least 5 years, meaning that China would need to continually support Russia during this period. This agreement dates back to February 4, 2022, when Putin visited Beijing and signed a military alliance. China supports Russia in taking Ukraine in exchange for Russia's distraction of the US when China was planning to attack Taiwan on August 1, 2022. Xi Jinping initially tried to conceal the China-Russia alliance, presenting China as a peacemaker and leading the world to expect a possible Chinese betrayal of Russia. Xi's plan to cooperate with the US, pretending to oppose Russia, was contingent on the US not interfering with China's acquisition of Taiwan. After securing Taiwan, China planned to join Russia in forcing the US out of the Western Pacific. Putin is aware of Xi's duplicity, so Russia turned a blind eye to these events. Slowly, the war between Russia and Ukraine was draining China's financial resources. Each year, China must support Russia with hundreds of billions of dollars, indirectly aiding Russia's GDP growth by 3%. Although China has a large production capacity, it also relies on a lesser-known, cheaper labor source, North Korea. Although on the surface it is an independent nation, in reality, North Korea functions as a province of China, serving as its most cost-effective and secretive human mine. North Korea doesn't require standard wages or does not need to adhere to environmental working standards, producing final products at a reduced price, making them highly competitive in the international market. Certain high-pollution components of lithium batteries for electric cars, which most countries prohibit, are produced at a low cost by the CCP. 2 years ago, China ramped up its military production to support Russia, leading to an increased demand in the global arms market. Products like the M4A2 propellant for the 155mm howitzer became popular. With production capacities in the Pearl River Delta, Yangtze River Delta, and Shanxi reaching their limits, North Korea took on the excess tasks, enabling China to easily mobilize hundreds of thousands of workers there. Kim Jong-un's regime, in order to maintain its rule, completely submits to China's economic plans and follows Xi Jinping's directives in diplomacy and military matters, exemplifying Xi's concept of a community of common destiny for mankind. This concept operates by indebting countries involved in the Belt and Road Initiative, ultimately turning them into large prisons, similar to North Korea, producing cheap products for China and ensuring its position in the international supply chain. This is why China can threaten the European Union in industrial chain competition. Therefore, experts suggest that the US and Europe must completely sever ties with China, similar to the Cold War era. These arguable wrongdoings of China extend further. Many of the weapons used by the Hamas organization are provided by China. On December 30, 2023, a large cache of Chinese-made weapons was seized by the Israeli Defense Forces in Gaza. Hamas, being sanctioned, cannot purchase weapons through regular channels. Therefore, these weapons, evading international sanctions and Israeli blockades to enter Gaza, must be part of an organized, long-term state behavior. Israel has confirmed their Chinese origin due to unique ammunition components. Yasin rockets used by Hamas are also linked to China. On December 24th, Global Times reported that Hamas's Yasin rocket was among China's top 10 most noticed weapons. This further strengthens the connection between China and Hamas in terms of weapon supply. Israel launched an airstrike near Damascus, Syria, on Christmas, killing Sayed Reza Mousavi, a senior commander of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. This event struck a blow to the Middle Eastern weapons smuggling network. Mousavi was responsible for smuggling rockets, missiles, and various equipment from Iran to Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, and then to Hamas. It's likely that Mousavi had direct dealings with China. This revelation sent shockwaves through global media. Mousavi, usually low profile and blending in with civilians, was still identified by Israel. The sudden move against Mousavi was influenced by two factors: his key role in the October 7th raid and Israel's policy of retribution. Secondly, Mousavi's involvement in significant weapons smuggling, detected by the US, led Israel to warn Iran about this situation. With Mousavi's demise, China's arms export network to the Middle East is disrupted for the time being, dampening the spirits of terrorists. While the media has not yet linked Mousavi directly to the vast array of Chinese weapons with Hamas, it is clear that China should understand that the US is aware of its activities. The exposure of Hamas's secret leader, Mohammed Daif, also poses concerns for China. On December 27th, the Israeli Defense Forces released recent photos of Daif, seemingly taken covertly by someone close to him. If Daif is captured alive, China could be directly implicated in a series of activities supporting terrorist organizations. Since October 7th, dynamics in the Middle East indicate the US's intention to eliminate anti-American forces in the conflict stirred by Hamas. US diplomatic negotiations with Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and other countries aim to determine their stance on whether to join China's Belt and Road Initiative or the US-led Red Sea Fleet. Experts suggest that refusal to join the US camp could have severe consequences for these nations. In dealing with Turkey, the US strategy seems more direct. Erdogan is accused by Israel of committing genocide against the Kurds, potentially facing international trials for genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity. This aims to weaken pro-China and pro-Russia elements in Turkey. The US also plans to address Iran and its proxies through Israel. Statements by the Israeli defense minister on December 26th and a call between the US and Israeli defense ministers on December 29th indicate that the US and Israeli militaries will jointly target Iran, Gaza, Hezbollah, Iran-allied Iraqi militias, and the Houthi forces. Regarding Iran, the United States and Israel are primarily considering internal subversion to achieve their goals. If this approach proves ineffective, military means may be necessary to resolve the Iranian issue. This suggests that conflicts and instability in the Middle East could escalate in the near future. In the current global geopolitical climate, China's military and diplomatic strategies are facing serious challenges. The 2024 U.S. Defense Authorization and Appropriations Bills marks a new phase in U.S.-China relations, indicating that the One China policy and the 3 U.S.-China joint communiques are no longer key components of U.S. policy. As with the Soviet Union during the Cold War, the U.S. may adopt more direct measures to counter China's challenges. With the increase in the U.S. defense budget, China faces military insufficiency in the South China Sea, diplomatic isolation, and growing financial pressures. As the 2024 U.S. elections approach, the Biden administration may take more aggressive actions to maintain its geopolitical interests and domestic political standing. Nationally, Chinese leader Xi Jinping is tightening his control over the military. Recently, the National People's Congress dismissed 9 senior military officers who are awaiting further disposition. High-ranking officers from various military branches, including the Rocket Force and Air Force, have been dismissed. This symbolizes the ongoing purges within the military rankings and officials. The situation involving high-ranking Chinese military officials, including former commanders of the Rocket Force, the Air Force, and senior officers from the former Deputy Minister of Equipment, can be compared to historical scenarios in other countries. These officials find themselves in a position where action seems impossible. For example, during the First Gulf War, Iraq, under Saddam Hussein, faced economic sanctions from the United States. Concurrently, there were efforts to incite a coup within the Iraqi military to overthrow Saddam. However, these attempts were ultimately unsuccessful due to Saddam's rigorous countermeasures and purges. It took over a decade for the US to intervene directly and capture Saddam from his hideout. Similarly, the overthrow of Muammar Gaddafi in Libya was facilitated by a combination of a popular uprising and US military intervention. The challenges of orchestrating a rebellion in such environments are compounded by the risk of severe repercussions, making the endeavor highly risky and often unfeasible. At the same time, Xi Jinping is rapidly promoting his own factions in the government. On December 25th, Xi promoted 2 generals, one of whom, Wang Wenquan, a political commissar in the former Deputy Minister of Equipment, became a Central Committee member at the 20th Party Congress as a lieutenant general. Wang's promotion is attributed to his role in the 2019 Wuhan military exercises and handling the COVID-19 outbreak, earning Xi's trust. His position as the head of the military's Joint Logistics Support Force, especially during emergencies like lockdowns and quarantines, is crucial. During Taiwan's elections, the People's Liberation Army is relentless, with 11 sorties on Christmas night and 5 high-altitude balloons crossing the median line of the Taiwan Strait in the preceding month. These are the detected incidents. There are likely many more undetected, including secret landings of PLA operatives in Taiwan. The PLA is always preparing for a sudden strike on Taiwan, similar to Hamas's surprise attack on Israel on October 7th. The plan is to use force immediately after Lai Ching-te's election. However, this is unlikely to succeed. The U.S. Defense Authorization and Appropriations bills authorize training for Taiwanese forces and a quasi-military alliance with Taiwan. By 2024, the U.S. military will comprehensively reorganize and adjust the Taiwanese forces. During the elections, a large number of U.S. troops are expected to be stationed on the island. Overall, the situation in recent months has indeed become increasingly tense and militarily escalated. The current international landscape differs from World War II, with blurred national boundaries and deep intertwinement. Countries use intelligence systems, political subversion, and military actions in various ways to advance their strategic objectives. Protests in Serbia, military pressure by Venezuela on neighboring countries, the UK dispatching warships to Guyana, and the Philippines' military buildup in the South China Sea all reflect escalating tensions globally. The possibility of a world war is increasingly imminent. Any region could potentially escalate the situation, leading to hybrid warfare where intelligence systems operate subversively. If this fails, escalation to direct military action could arise.